Denise, we could do it. There you go. We could do it like we do in the children's class. We could, you know, Miss Karen, it's time to record.
Well, they've changed the menu here again. There it is. Good morning, everybody. I will get it together sooner or later.
Good morning.
We did chapters 32 through 36. And we're recording. Donna's having trouble. Is it time to enter the promised land? Do you think it's time?
Yeah.
No, we have one more book to study. We got to go through Deuteronomy. Sorry.
I'm getting tired of it. I don't know how they did 40 years. Oh my gosh.
You know, and notice that they just kind of skip over those 30-some years.
Yeah.
It seems like, you know. So let's start with prayer. Father God, may my heart be clean and filled with joy as I confidently claim that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Master over all. May my heart be filled with and sing praises to the one who has sat down at the right hand of the Father on my behalf. In remembrance for what Christ has done, let me never forget who I am in Christ and of the never-ending love that comes from our covenant-keeping God. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, somebody sent me this cartoon. You guys send me the greatest things, by the way. If we look at review, you can kind of look at it from these as sections if you wanted to. But in 1 through 10, God numbered and prepared his people, priests and Levites, to enter the land. That was preparation. In 11 through 14, he led them to the land, but they didn't believe and rejected the land and him. In 15 through 21, Israel continued to rebel. God brought on judgments, but they defeated Sihon and Og. In 22 through 25, we have the story of Balaam. Isn't that, bless his heart, right?
That poor donkey.
I know, but he told Moab how to lead the Israelites to idolatry. And in 26 through 31, the new generation prepared to enter the land. Now, what you're going to need to have handy is your at-a-glance chart and maybe some visual, the map that we saw. But don't you love that cartoon? Who sent that to me?
I did, Wendy.
Wendy? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I studied a book of Numbers. 36 chapters of self-centered people who whined every time they didn't get their way. Give us something relevant. Well, it is kind of relevant, isn't it?
Big time.
Yeah, yeah. So in
I
Numbers,
didn't think it was until we studied it.
I know. Isn't that crazy? So in Numbers 32, what did you put as the theme for 32? What kind of, talk to me.
The tribes east of the Jordan.
Okay.
Wasn't that Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh?
Mm-hmm.
I said Reuben and Gad inherit Gilead after supporting Israel in the battle for the Promised Land.
Okay. Those are all good. So land of Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh. So who asked one of Moses and why in verses 1 through 5?
I think they wanted the land because they had a lot of livestock, and it seemed like a reasonable request.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. They wanted the land east of the Jordan. They had large numbers. Molly, what are you doing? I saw the look on her face. I knew it was her. She was like, ah. According to Genesis 15, this is the land promised to Abraham's descendants, included the land of the Amorites and the Canaanites. Okay. So in 6 through 15, what was the warning? What were they doing here? Moses gave them a warning. If you want this land,
You have to be ready to go to war with us when we go to war.
Yeah. Why would he be concerned about that?
Because they didn't go in when they went up to spy out the land. They
Yeah.
didn't obey. And he didn't want Gad and Reuben to discourage Israel from going in.
And it would cut their numbers in third.
Absolutely. It would cut their numbers. I mean, because that's a big part of the group, isn't it?
Yes.
And
Sorry, I still had a question back up a little bit. Okay, so this land east of Jordan, that was part of the promised land or not?
Yes, it is.
Okay, is that what the Amorites, is that where they live?
Yes.
Okay,
All the way to the Euphrates River.
Yeah.
okay.
That whole area is really promised to Israel. They've never ever really totally had the entire area. Hi Ann, how's Michael doing?
Hi there. He's doing okay. He's got hands, feet, and mouth. So he's got blisters all in his mouth, but he's doing okay. He's doing okay.
I'm so sorry you have to go through that.
Oh, it's okay. He's doing okay. Thanks for your prayers, though. I appreciate them.
Oh, I just love you so much.
Love
But
you
they
too.
But they was also afraid of them turning. They said, "Don't turn. You're going to turn away from the Lord." Right? That was part of it too. Yeah. So here, go ahead.
You just have to think Moses had to kind of be thinking, we're not going to go down this disobedience road again, thinking back to Numbers 13 with the spies, you know, like, okay, guys, we're not going to travel around this wilderness another 40 years. We're going to obey.
Oh, that's a thought, isn't it? I don't want to do another 40. Oh my word. Plus he wasn't going to live long anyway, so as we will find out in Deuteronomy. But yeah, this whole area, you know, was there's the Ammon, was just the Ammonites, and here's East Manasseh, you know, but there's the Jordan River. That river is something too. I've actually seen it. I was actually dunked in it. So what took place in verses 16 through 27?
Well, they pledged to fight for Israel, and they say that they will do what the Lord commanded them to do.
Absolutely, yeah. And that help with the rest of Israel until all the tribes have possessed their inheritance. There's that inheritance. And how did Moses?
Didn't you think about, he said they're going to build sheepfolds and homes and leave their wives and children, basically unprotected.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, didn't they say they were going to build walls around their places?
Well, yeah, walls, you know, help to some extent.
Yeah, but when you have grazing land or farmland, it's hard to wall that, you know.
It says cities for our little ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cities, yeah.
Yeah, they were going to fortify the cities where they were at.
There were cities there that they were inhabiting, so they were already walled and fortified.
Yeah, the walls were already there.
I mean, I just think about things like that. They built homes for their wives and children, and then they go off to war for how long? Long time.
But at this point, they probably still, I mean, they probably had faith that God would, if they're doing what God tells them to, he would protect the family.
Right. And the teenage sons didn't go. They're only 20 and above, so, you know, they might have had sons that could help.
In 23, Moses gave another warning. What was that warning?
God knows what you're doing and not doing, and you're just like now, your sin will find you out.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. He may let you stray for a little while, but it's going to come back.
Yeah, so does anyone really get away with sin?
No.
No.
No. And I like how she said that might be one you want to remember and memorize.
Yeah, sin will find you out. I've heard preaching done on that, haven't you?
Uh-huh.
Well,
I
haven't
was,
you experienced it? I have.
Yeah. Think of that. Yeah, Catherine, you brought up a good point. You know, have you experienced it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
it's not too
Yes.
much fun.
Is that kind of like what goes around comes around?
Yes.
Yeah, eventually it does. You know, you think those, you see some people, and they seem to get away with it all the time, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And you just sit there, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I wonder, you know, but knowing God, I have found comfort that one day they will get their own. They may have it good on earth now, but in the eternity, it's going to be a different story.
They will get theirs.
Well, I pray that they wise up before they get there.
Yes.
Oh, me too.
Because that is horrifying. Because, you know, we all have people that are unsaved that we
Yeah.
love and know.
Yes.
And we definitely, I know I'm on my knees all the time for them.
But I think they will still get it for what they've done, even if they get saved, because that's what punishment is all about. You will still get your punishment.
And I think a lot of people hide it. Maybe they're terribly unhappy.
And we don't have to know. That's the best part. We don't even have to know if they've gotten it. That's
Yeah,
when
and I find that comforting too, don't you? That you just give it to God,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that's part of the freedom that Jesus, I think, was talking about.
exactly, because it gives you peace. You don't have to worry about it. In other words, if they get it, great. If they don't, that's fine too. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and it hurts when it's like your son or your daughter or your mother or your father, you know. It still hurts. I'm not saying and belittling that whatsoever, but it,
No.
you know.
But like for in my own case, he's made it clear he's not going to discuss somebody else's sin with me. He's going to discuss my sin with me. And he's straightening me out. So I know if he's doing that with me, he's doing that with them. And that eventually when they do come to him, he will take care of it.
Exactly.
Just like he does with me.
And you're right. And that's all we have to worry about. We have to worry about our sin and us being taken care of. You're right. You know, it's
right.
That's that whole trunk thing in the eye, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, there's consequences to all actions.
Yes.
And, you know, we're going to suffer the consequences. We may be forgiven for the sin, but the consequences are still there.
And that's what I was thinking of earlier, where you still have to pay. You will pay the consequences for it, right?
Yeah, and the ripple effect, you know, we don't even know what our sin, who it affects, and how long that effect will have.
Yeah. Yes.
You know.
And that's why every day when I pray, I say, Lord, bring it to my mind if I've sinned against you. And if you don't, forgive me for it. Because there's sometimes you do commit a sin and you don't realize that you did sin against it. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you can do that.
I don't remember specifically when it was, but there were several things when I was being transformed, and it was like, oh, you know, getting hit right and left. There was things that he brought up to me that I didn't even know was sin. You know, so it's a learning process, I think, you know, for all of us.
Oh,
So
yeah.
2 things did Moses do in verses 28 through 42? He did 2 separate things that are really kind of important.
Well, he let the leaders know what the decision had been.
Yes, he let them know. They were the leaders of this new generation. Eleazar had become the priest after Aaron had died. Joshua had already been commissioned to replace Moses as the leader of Israel. And the other leaders needed to be aware of the decision before entering the land, because they were the ones who were going to be entering. Moses wasn't going to, you know.
Right.
And they had to be aware of the decision so that when the land was to be conquered, the 2 tribes would go back to their possession in the east of Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is he gave Gad, Reuben, and half the tribe of Manasseh the kingdom of the Amorites and Bashan with their cities and surrounding land. So he said, okay, you want it? You got it, right?
Do you think it was strange that Moses didn't inquire of God to this decision. That kind of shocked me a little bit.
I hadn't thought about it.
That he didn't what, Michelle?
That Moses didn't ask the Lord what to do in this. And I say that because, I mean, it was over and over that the land was to be determined by lot, like casting lots. And so it surprised me that Moses made
Okay,
the
well, do you
decision.
know what casting lots meant to them? That brings up a good point.
Is that the
Finding the will of God.
That's how they determined what the will of God was.
Right.
No, I realize that. But I'm
okay.
just saying that they didn't cast lots for these 2.5 tribes that were requesting this. You know what I mean? They weren't really included in that because Moses said, go ahead and you can stay here. So that part just shocked me a little bit.
I agree. It did me too. When I read that, I thought, but then in verse 4, I saw where it said that God had conquered those. So
right.
I thought, well, maybe Moses knew something we didn't.
Right. That could be.
I wasn't sure what to think.
Well, plus he had the right to make decisions too, so. Well, let's go to chapter 33. What's it about? This is why you needed your at-a-glance chart.
The journey out of Egypt to Moab.
Okay.
And the warning that they allowed no survivors in those lands.
So in verses 1 through 49, what did Moses record? The journeys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to go through each one of those, okay? If you want to memorize them, you go, okay?
Right.
Don't you think, though?
I'll hold your breath.
No way.
Don't you think it's interesting how precise God was, though, about this?
I tried to find a map with every single stop.
Me
but
too.
I couldn't find one.
Yeah, some of us
Well,
really
when
know
you-
where
when-
they're at.
Yeah, it depends on where they're at. Because like this map, you know, it just shows the path, you know, like they go in circles here. And actually, I think they came down over here and then went up and around and, you know, all the way around. But it is interesting, you know, but also how precise the God is. You know, record this information so that that it'll be known throughout the generations. There's places in the list that have not been mentioned before, and there are places mentioned before that were not included on this list. So it's not a complete, concise ABC, you know. And also, a lot of these places, they don't know where they were. I mean, nobody can, you know, really find out.
I was fascinated by verse 9. They journeyed from Marah and came to Elam. And in Elam, there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. And I thought, surely there was water and palm trees in other places. What was specific about this place that he
Because
needed to
do you
record?
remember seeing the pictures of Israel that I was at? I saw this place, and there was a spring there that fed, and they've kept it, and 70 palm trees still live there today.
Really?
Yes, it's amazing. Yeah. But otherwise, I mean, you'll just see this, you know, like in Getty, you know, all around it is just rock.
Yeah.
But in Engedi, there's, and I think, is that Engedi actually?
Yes, that is true.
That is Engedi, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's this place, you know, and a waterfall. It's just amazing.
Yep.
Do you happen to know, is this the same Mara that Moses made sweet? Something about that.
The water made sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Camped at Mara. Was it the same name? I'd have to research that. I'd have to research that.
Doesn't Ruth say Mara means bitterness or something?
I know, somebody look it up. Barbara, one of the Barbaras, look it up real quick. And while we go on. One time reference is in verse 38 and relate this to Numbers 20. That's where Aaron died.
The 40th year.
40th year.
I'm looking at the wrong.
Yeah, 40th year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 40th year after Israel came out of Egypt. Numbers 20 says that it was at Mount Hor. This is where Eleazar was clothed with the priestly garments. Just for your information.
It says Mount Hor here too, also.
Okay. So there's warnings and instructions in verses 50 through 56 of chapter 33. What did he instruct them to do?
Denise, I found Mara, it means bitter.
Okay. Sharon, you were right.
Yeah.
It's a place in the wilderness of Shur, so named because of the bitter water found there by wandering Israelites.
But Moses had made that sweet because the people were grumbling at that point.
Okay. So you guys remember this so much better than I do.
Yeah.
What were they to do? I'll start you
Okay,
off. Drive out all the
so
inhabitants.
Yeah, so he gave them 4 instructions: drive out all inhabitants, destroy all their idols, take possession of the land, live in it, and inheritance of the land by tribe size and by lot.
Did y'all read my thing? Because I found high places fascinating. I don't know why. It was one of my pet peeves. Did everybody read that?
No.
It's just me. You did not?
Yeah, I read it. It was good. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, the high places. Wasn't that interesting? About that's where they went, and actually Jerusalem, where they had the Temple Mount, is on the high place. Yeah, it's real interesting.
That's where Jesus was tempted, right? From the devil on the high place.
In the wilderness.
Yeah.
He was in the wilderness. He was taken to the high place by the devils, by Satan.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, if you've missed it, you guys got The Chosen is out again.
Oh.
Yeah, see, we watched it.
Season 2:1 is out.
Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, or you can download the app free and watch it.
Oh, is it on Redeem?
No, The Chosen.
Okay. No, but I mean.
It is only on the app now. It was available during Easter week on YouTube. And
but it's not now?
It's not. They may not have yet taken it down, but it's only supposed to be available on the app.
Which app?
Yeah, what app?
The Chosen.
The Chosen app.
The Chosen.
Okay. Thank you.
And on
And
another
if you have
subject,
PureFlex, season 1's on there.
If you interesting thing I found out about Mara too, this is the same exact word used in Deuteronomy 21:18. If a man has a stubborn and rebellious son, rebellious is the same word as Mara. So when God's children rebelled, yeah.
Oh, that's
Jesus.
interesting.
So that was it. Yeah.
See, that's why I like to, like in Genesis, for those who are in Genesis tomorrow, I sent out a thing and there's a specific word. And if you do a search on it, like with Bible Gateway or Blue Letter Bible, it'll show you every place in the Bible that word is used, okay? And it's interesting when you really sit down and read it, you learn a lot about a word and how it's used differently throughout the Bible. I always find that fascinating when I have the time to do it. But Evelyn's having trouble getting in. I told her she needs to buy a new computer, but that's another discussion. All right, the division of the land of tribes would be by lot, according to the size of the tribe. So I guess, what would that mean? By lot, according to the size of the tribe? Would that mean that the bigger tribes got to go first?
No, they got more land.
Yeah.
They
That's
just
what I
got
was gonna
lots.
say, is they got more land.
Yeah.
More people, more land.
Okay. And what would happen if Israel did not obey?
Ooh.
It would not be good.
No.
The people that were left there, if they in the land, would become problem for them.
Yeah, the prick in the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
And a
that.
thorn in the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because why would he? Well, if you relate that to Numbers 25, that's when the Midianite women deceived Israel.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that what he's saying? You want to go through that again, really?
No way.
And how about the last statement of the warning is in verse 56?
Yeah, what he was going to do to them, the other people, he would do to the tribes of Israel that didn't drive the people out.
Right?
Pretty dire warning.
You're going to get what they would have got, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he would do to them what he planned to do to the Canaanites, remove them from the land. That seemed to happen, didn't it? Numbers 34, what was it about?
Who was getting that?
Israel?
Okay. What else do you have for the theme?
Appointing leaders of the tribes for the apportionment.
Okay. Yeah. The borders of Canaan and who was to apportion the land. What are the main points of this chapter? The borders, right?
Yeah, he's very clearly drawing out what their land is.
Yeah, because there's 9.5, I like that, 9.5 tribes enter the land in Canaan, 2.5 on the other side. The tribe leaders were to apportion the land and their names are listed. Did everybody memorize those names?
No.
No.
Eleazar and Joshua. Right.
And Caleb.
Caleb was there, wasn't he? Okay, we're just going to skip that chapters, okay, but we have other things we need to hit more. Numbers 35, what's the chapter theme of that?
Cities of refuge.
And the blood avenger.
And the blood avenger. Wasn't that fun to look up?
Yeah.
So how are the cities of refuge described? Just real briefly.
They're the cities where the manslayer can flee to. And they were to be in the cities of the Levites, and there's to be 6 of them.
Yes.
And they were for those who killed somebody unintentionally.
There was 3 to the east and 3 to the west, right?
Yes.
Correct.
And now what kind of people, what kind of murder? Well, it wasn't murder. What did they call it?
Accidental killing.
Manslaughter.
Unintentional.
Unintentional killing. Yeah.
Yeah. Manslaughter.
Manslayer.
Oh, Lordy.
Because the blood avenger, a relative who avenged the death of a kinsman. What did you find out about the word avenger? You were to look that up. And I even sent you stuff on it. So you could cheat. You did, Ray?
No.
No.
Sorry.
You did not.
Rough week.
It was usually the nearest male relative to the victim.
They were basically redeeming, oneself or the family or the tribe. It was you were kind of like a kinsman redeemer, but this was to redeem by payment, you said, or from death or from bondage or from exile, or it has to do with redeeming.
It does. If you sat and I took a picture of the lexicon, it's really kind of interesting to read about the required blood to avenge bloodshed, to require a penalty of bloodshed from anyone. So it was to get back the blood that was taken away. And if you think of that and you think of what Jesus died for us.
Well, the life is in the blood.
because the life is in the blood and he redeemed it. It goes all the way through, doesn't it?
Yes.
And then you compared it to Genesis, and Catherine, I think you said that it requires, well, no, you didn't. In Genesis 9, God required the life of one who murders another because he made man in his image. And
Right.
that's important to God, isn't it?
Well, it also said that the blood defiled the land itself, and it could not be redeemed without the shedding of the guilty blood.
Isn't that interesting?
So it does show you the value of human life.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's a connection between the cities of refuge, the manslayer, and the blood avengers in number 35. It has to be unintentional. What did they mean by unintentional?
Well, there was no malice. Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, and they actually had you listed out in your homework, didn't it?
They kind of spelled it out.
Yeah.
They couldn't lie in wait with a stone or with a stick.
With an object, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But if there was unintentional, you made a list of the unintentional and the intentional, right? He could flee to the city of refuge, right? The blood avenger could not kill him. Otherwise, he couldn't sneak into the city of refuge and kill him, okay?
But he better not go out of the city.
Yeah, he couldn't leave that place.
No,
absolutely, because all bets are off then. I mean, that's what I thought.
Well, it was interesting to me that he had to stay there until the high priest died.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why the high priest?
And so then he leaves it and goes back to his home, and that blood avenger.
Yeah, did anybody research that? I didn't. I meant to, and I didn't. Did anybody dig into that? Why the high priest?
I think it had something to do with that, is who was in charge at the time that the trial or the sentence would have taken place, because a trial still has to take place in an unintentional murder. So I believe that was what it was. I studied it like last year.
That's what I was thinking, Sharon, that we've studied this before, but I couldn't remember what it was.
And I can't remember which book we studied it in.
And then doesn't it all revert back on the year of Jubilee too? Doesn't that have an impact on it? Or no?
I didn't see that anywhere.
No.
That's regaining, that's going back to your land and getting your land back.
Okay, but that wouldn't be all debts forgiven, all things.
It didn't say that.
Okay.
But it did say the congregation were the ones that would judge whether the person had done it intentionally or unintentionally, and you had to have at least 2 witnesses.
You're right.
Yeah.
And if they were found guilty, what would happen to them?
They died.
They died.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, the thing to think about too, when they went to the city of refuge, it was the same as being in prison because they couldn't leave there.
Yeah.
Well, then they had to somehow, they're going to be there for years probably, so they had to have some way to make a living. They couldn't just live off of the other people.
Yeah, because they had to leave everything behind.
Has anybody seen that movie, New York?
Escape from New York?
Yes.
Oh, where they put everybody on an island or something like that, or one place?
Well, and they also have one, they put them all in New York and just let the crooks, murderers and everything just all live together. And they were walled in. They also had Escape from Los Angeles too, I think. So, they had these places, and I thought of that and I go, that's going on the same basis, isn't it? Just putting them in the city and live however you want, There also had to be 2 witnesses for a murder to be put to death.
I have a question or a thought on the high priest. There weren't written records at that time. And the high priest was the one who had heard the witnesses. And he's the one who would remember the case, and he knew all the facts of it. Well, if he died, a family member, somebody that had bad motives against this person could come up and say, well, this wasn't right. They really need to put this person to death. If the high priest is not there, there's no valid way to go back and prove that case.
Well, and also back then when a decision was made, it was final.
Right. Well,
It
right. But
I mean, it wasn't like, oh no, I'm going to appeal to the courts and go through 30 years of appealing. They didn't have that. If you were guilty, you were guilty and you died.
Okay, well, I was just trying to relate this to what we do today, what kind of records we have today. If somebody wanted to question something,
but there's no recourse. Once a decision was made back then, it was done.
Gotcha.
But I thought of this. It just kind of, now that I'm just throwing out an idea. Maybe they needed to empty them out to make room for the new ones coming in.
Well, that's all.
I mean, I don't.
No, rather than the high priest, it actually says in 35 verses 23 and or 24 and 25, it's the congregation that judges between the slayer and the blood of any.
Yeah, they make the judgment. Okay. Yeah, they make the judgment, but I think the high priest was just, okay, we're going to stop it here and everybody's free and then we can start over again. I don't know. I'll try to research that.
He was only in one place.
Okay, well, why?
You said, be holy.
Why did a murder need to be avenged?
Because it polluted the land.
It polluted the land, yeah, and defiles the land. It was all about the land, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I just go back to Cain and Abel,
Well, and also if you didn't avenge it, then people would just say, oh, I can kill whoever I want to kill. And
yeah.
Kind of like things are now, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of like California. Sorry.
The other thing too is he said that God said that he was going to be dwelling in that land in the midst of Israel too.
Yeah.
Because you need to be holy for the Lord your God and a holy God. Yeah. The land was to be holy and don't we call it still today the Holy Land?
Yes, we do.
And they take it seriously. Well, most people, a lot of people there. I mean, you see the seriousness they feel. All right, Numbers 36. What?
I was just going to say, think about the killing pollutes the land. What does that do to America with the abortion problem that we have?
Oh, dear.
Oh, man, go there.
We polluted the land for sure.
Also, I read there's 20,000 homicides by guns a year and 24,000 suicides.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Sobering.
Yeah, but that's not, abortion, it's always innocent blood.
That's even worse.
And that's worse.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning it wasn't, but I just another.
Oh, no. It's all bad. It's all bad.
It's all bloodshed.
That's right, Donna. It's all bloodshed.
Mm-hmm.
So Numbers 36. What's the chapter theme of Numbers 36?
The inheritance has to remain with the
It's almost done.
We had 2 or 3 people talking at the same time.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry, just one. Somebody.
The land is non-transferable between tribes.
Absolutely, yeah. It was to remain within the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So what is addressed in verses 1 through 12?
The daughters, right?
Yeah, we're going back to the
daughters.
girls, aren't we? Those dang women, they're just a mess, aren't they?
Yeah, about marrying outside of the tribe, and they're kind of stuck in the end.
What would you feel like if you fell in love with a Benjaminite and you were a Judah,
I think they would have to give up the land.
Right.
But you can't give up the land.
They just didn't want to.
You can't give it up.
Well, they can give it to someone within their tribe. They can have it.
But they could only marry.
They can't leave the tribe.
Right.
So I think that they would just have no inheritance then. They would
Right.
have to pass that along.
What was
Yeah.
interesting is that they could marry who they chose within the tribe, who they loved, where is that it seemed more in the past chapters, it was more arranged, like they had to,
Yeah, love really wasn't a consideration in marriage back then.
No.
And if you look at the daughters of Zelophehad,
Zelophehad.
I couldn't pronounce that name.
Zelophehad.
Zelophehad?
Zelophehad.
Zelophehad.
Yeah.
Okay. They got the inheritance, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. In the Jubilee, now here comes the Jubilee, her inheritance would be added to the inheritance of that tribe. That would be if she married outside the tribe. So Leviticus 25 says that in the year of Jubilee, the land reverted to its original owner because the daughter had inherited the land. It would stay with her, the owner, at the Jubilee. It gets complicated, doesn't it? So he just said they have to marry within the tribe. That will cut it off, right?
They married their cousins.
Yep,
Oh,
they
dear.
did. They listened. They listened to the Lord.
Yeah.
But even then, I think that in the time of Adam and Eve and on, they were closer to that original creation. The lines were purer. There was not as much problems with intermarrying with cousins or even brothers or sisters, because they were closer to that original point of creation. Sin has continually created problems, and so we're much further away from that original point, and we need to take precautions.
Yeah, we dig into that in Genesis. You're absolutely right.
Oh, good.
And yeah, we'll get into, I think it's part 2 or maybe it's 3, because I know it's Abraham, because Abraham actually marries his half sister, and you sit there and go, oh, ick, right? But the thing is that you're so far away, you're closer to creation, and corruption of the genes, I think is what's the terms used.
If you think about Adam and Eve, they married brothers and sisters.
I love genealogy. I think it's fascinating.
I wonder how many people first had their first crushes on a cousin.
I don't know. How does Numbers end? And this is verse 13 of 36.
These are the commandments and the ordinances which the Lord commanded the sons of Israel through Moses before he died in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho. Commands of the Lord.
So the Lord had prepared them, right?
Yep. I mean, he just laid it out.
Yeah.
I think that's really what Deuteronomy is all about. So did you find anything that just really made a big difference to you in Numbers?
I just, I had that was one of those books, kind of like Leviticus, something you stay away from because you hear it's complicated, and it wasn't. It was very interesting, the things that happened, and why they happened. That was the thing that was fascinating to me. It wasn't there was a purpose for the reason that they happened. So.
And I was impressed with how the whole book shows the heart of God. His heart for Israel, his heart for human life, his heart for specifics of travel or tribes gaining land and all this. It just helped me understand a little more, see his heart.
And you get to really, sorry, go ahead, Cheryl.
Well, I was thinking more application for me is how it really convicted me about complaining and, how they just kept going in circles and whining and complaining. And it just reminds me of some of the modes that I get stuck in and what it causes, the disobedience. And that's what was pointed out to me in this book.
I like that, Cheryl. Yeah. And that gets down to what I got out of it is that we're to be holy because he is holy.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it. It's not because he's being demanding and pushy and all of that, but it's because he loves us.
Well,
and
also it's a history book, and this is part of the history, and it tells us where all these people went and who they all were and what they all did. So that's important to know.
And we represent him in his name. So, I mean, we're him here on earth.
Mm-hmm. He cared about families, the tribes, the family. He still cares about families. And those people we have in our families that are not serving the Lord, he cares about them.
We are his family.
We are. And, I think sometimes he allows us to have people in our families because we will pray for them. We will keep lifting them up to him that he might work his work in them.
I have a lot of praying then to do.
Yeah.
Kathy, that's a good comment. I also am still stuck on the spies and the fact that they went in there and they saw wonderful things and came back and never thought about what God could use them for. And I think it really stands for us a lot of the time. We just think every obstacle that we come to, that if we can't tackle it ourselves, then it's impossible. And I think that we need to really consider the fact that God is with us and is going to enable us to overcome difficulty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah.
I was important to know these.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I was just thinking at how important it is to study these first books of the Bible because they are our foundation. They might be Old Testament, but they are the foundation of all of the scriptures. So I think we can have a tendency to misinterpret even the New Testament if we don't know the prior testaments, So I think it's just really important to know our history and to know, that revelation that God gave us in these books. So just overall, just all of it is important and changes us, when we read it, so that when we're in the New Testament scriptures, they're in, what I mean? That's the Holy Spirit, he can move in us and pull these things to our remembrance and just give us a better understanding, a more foundational, solid standing, and also discernment for other people that we're listening to,
Yes.
May not even know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because everything in the Old Testament refers to things in the New Testament.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's all leading us to Jesus.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
And especially, I think that this Easter, that part where Jesus is walking with the men to Emmaus, and he says he started to tell them all about himself, starting with Moses. That never meant so much to me as it did this year.
Yes.
After studying these books.
Yes.
And just every time I come across a reference to the Old Testament books and the New Testament, I'm just like, I understand. I understand where that is. I understand better what he's saying.
Yeah.
I love that.
Me too.
Something that struck me is that this is not just the Jewish or the Israelite history. It's our history.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
We're grafted in, and this is our history too.
Mm-hmm.
And Barbara, that's why that I said that originally is because, we're part of the whole,
Right.
and we need to know what's going on from the very beginning, because if we don't, then we'll
come up short.
Yes, ma'am.
we come up short.
That's why Genesis is so important to really study, and I'm really having fun doing that again on Fridays. It just brings back, and I can't wait for part 2 because it's like so good. Yeah, you learn so much about how the world was, how God looked at the world and how it was formed and how it got moved around. I mean, it's just, it's amazing the things that are in Genesis.
Yeah,
But in the
I'm so thankful that it's taking it in the sections that it is. You know, so we really spend time in creation, and then we spend time in the second session. I think it goes to what, 9 or something, or 11.
11:26, yeah.
Well,
How do
not
I
only
know that?
it really it gives you an idea of why Ken Ham can have a whole ministry on answers in Genesis.
Yeah, I tell you what, I listened to him on creation because I was just kind of hitting some stuff, and you know, he's real big on the new earth, you know, and young earth, I'm sorry. And you know, he goes, but he brings up the point. This made me feel a little bit better about my husband. He says it's not going to keep you out of heaven. It's not going to keep you out of heaven if you don't believe in a new, you know, a young world.
No.
But I think it does build a lot of your foundation of what God said is what he says it is. And if you go and trying to move it around and stuff, you can get in some problems, you know. That's all he says. And Evelyn, you finally made it, girl.
Oh, girl. This has been a week, but this is good. I'm here, so I'm just going to listen now.
Okay, well, we're done.
We got the movie, but we got the video.
We got the video.
We got the video. Okay.
Why this box is over here is I've got everybody's picture up there so I can see y'all. But we're going to start Deuteronomy next week, okay? If you have not, like Cheryl, I'm glad that you mentioned that you hadn't got anything. If you did not get an email from me, then you're not in the class. So, and that might be a mistake of mine. I mean, it probably is, you know, because I have a lot of things jumbling. But it's going to be an 8-week study. It's from April 15th to June 3rd, and then we'll take a break until July 29th when we will study Ecclesiastes, okay? And it's only a 4-week
I'm excited about taking.
I'm real excited too, yeah. It's just a 4-week study, and I probably should have looked at it before. It's probably one of those I should have made it 8-week, but you know, hey, we can live it. And then we'll start Sermon on the Mountain. We will have the class live here in Jackson, Tennessee on Thursdays, but I will have it online. Yeah, yay. And I will have it online on Fridays though. So
please take that out of Thursday.
We're saying boo, boo.
Is the Ecclesiastes online?
Yes, it's online on Thursday. Yeah, I was going to do it live, and you know, and then I'm not going to kill myself. I mean, I love y'all, but you know, there's just so much this old woman can do. But I want to tell
Denise, can you put the previous slide back just for one quick second?
Sure. No, that way. Yeah. Oops. Too much.
Oh.
That one.
That one. Okay, Friday, so it starts the 10th, 9/10, okay. 9/10, so, okay, and to 11/19. All right.
So when you say it's live on Thursdays, but on Fridays, you'll have to view it recording, is that what you mean?
No,
she'll do an online.
I'll do an online class just like this one.
Oh, okay.
Live means we're going to meet at the church in person, and I'll get to touch people and hug people.
It's a little bit of a hike from me to Jackson, Tennessee.
You are such a big baby, Karen.
Well, I mean,
you got that
I need to
RV.
go visit my in-laws too. So while I'm there, so.
Well, yeah. See, you can just stop on by.
Well, I guess if we start walking now.
I would be afraid nobody would want to be around me right now because my hair's standing straight out and I've got this cough. So,
well, you'll be over that soon. But I'm so proud of y'all. This has been probably my most well-attended class ever.
Wow.
I mean, ever. Even my local class is one of the best attended. Almost every one of you made it. If you missed a class, it's only been like one. Okay? So I'm just real proud of you.
Well, I slept through that class. I have a reason. So I was sleeping 24/7 those 2 days. So
That's okay. That's okay. You should have let me know so we could have prayed for you.